Culture starts at the top, when leadership is the risk factor.
Before we start, we're going to do some short, quick introduction. So I'm going to start with Alastair. Maybe you can do a quick introduction.
Of course. Hi, I'm Alastair Cleland. I'm the MD of Connexus Human Capital, which is brands like Pentasia, Payment Genes, Connexus Leadership.
Hi everyone, good morning. I'm Cordelia and I'm the founder and CEO of CMC Consulting, a boutique recruitment and HR business.
Hi, I'm Rosi Bremec. I'm former COO of Game Lounge. I'm here as an independent, taking a little bit of a break.
Hello everyone, my name is Daniel. I'm CBOO of Devils. Devils, it's a big company leading in traffic in Eastern Europe. I provide traffic, brands, etc. for casinos as well.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to discuss a very important topic today. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah.
Yes, you can? Okay. We're going to discuss a very important topic, and that is about leadership that starts, and culture starts at the top, when leadership becomes a risk factor, especially when we're speaking about unchecked egos and poor accountability. Could you give a hypothetical or maybe something you have experienced yourself that you would regard as an unchecked egos at work or poor accountability? And let me start with Danylo, please.
I'm sorry, I don't hear anything, to be honest. Could you repeat, please?
Should I repeat it? So I was asking.
Yeah.
Better now?
Yeah, a bit better.
Okay. So I was asking if you could give an example of either an unchecked ego or poor accountability at work. This can be either hypothetical or something you have maybe experienced a long time ago.
Yeah, I think it's very important topic. It's talk about ego in leadership as well, and it's very important for all companies to control this in case of C-level or in case of managers on different departments, because I think it's a very big problem in our industry sometimes, or maybe not only in our, but sometimes people think if you are a good affiliate manager, or maybe if you are a good business development manager, or you lead some other processes, it's not in 100% you will not be the good manager, good director, because if you're good in some things, it's not in 100% you will be good in leadership, because a lot of people have problems. They have a lot of talent to lead traffic, to control traffic, to optimize traffic, for example, or creating brands, or creating slots, whatever, payment solutions, whatever. But it's big difference sometimes not to lead traffic but lead the people, and it's like the big difference between them. And I think in our industry it's a big problem sometimes when people who can do some technical stuff, or who have some kind of hard skills, but they don't have enough soft skills and cannot lead people as well as they lead traffic.
Okay. So you're saying like the lack of soft skills can result in unchecked egos. Cordelia, please give us an example.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges that I see in businesses that have grown very quickly, for example, a senior SEO manager is then promoted into more of a leadership role, and he just doesn't have the skills to be able to lead. Just because he's good at operationally doing his job does not make him a natural leader. And I think one of the challenges is how you then empower the team and support them to be able to give them the leadership skills they need, because leadership, it doesn't come naturally to everyone. You have to be empathetic, you have to be supportive, you have to be able to take people's stress and absorb that stress. And unfortunately, just because someone is great at their day-to-day job, it doesn't mean that they're a great leader. And so businesses really have to try to support their teams to be able to make them be better leaders.
Thank you, Cordelia. Rosi, do you have some examples that you can give us from either poor accountability or unchecked egos?
I do. We had in one of the jobs, the roles I had in the past years, we had just created a layer of leadership. They were new. They were upcoming leaders. They were new to the leadership, kind of bigger leadership roles, and we asked them to give a presentation of the progress they were doing, and And they worked really hard. It was really stressful for them to present to C-suite. You know, and they really put a lot of effort in it. On the day when they came to present it, the CEO came in. He was on his phone. He was just really not really paying attention, and just really being. It was really nasty. It was just not respectful to them, which really knocked their confidence. Really knocked their confidence. And I can say that, you know, the updates coming after that were a lot different. They didn't. And when I had held him accountable for that, I said, you know, you weren't really, you know, you could have been a little bit better, a little bit more respectful there. You're on your phone. And he said, well, you know, I'm not going to apologize. And I said, well, you know, that's up to you. But, you know, it really wasn't. So I'm bringing this example up because it kind of goes full circle. He was, the ego was there. He had no empathy of how the others were feeling or how important that day was to them, because, you know, presenting to the C-suite is quite a big thing. I pulled him up on it, and obviously in private, and he still didn't. Went a little bit further. I'll just say this: he actually went and asked two of them. He said, you know, was I cocky? Was I, you know? And they said, no. So he came back to me. He said, no, they were fine. Now, when I asked them, they came up to me, they said, yeah, he asked. And I said, and what did you say? He said, of course, I'm just going to say he was fine. I'm not going to tell the CEO that he wasn't. So, you know.
And Rosi, you already addressed that the next meetings that they had to present at the C-suite were totally different, right? So to what extent? What was the difference in their next appearance in front of
the next one? I don't know. The next one, they didn't put as much effort. You could see they were afraid. They were kind of, it would be in between fear and like, well, he's gonna, you know, knock down anyway.
Basically.
So, sorry?
Between fear and disengagement.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it took me then a lot of the subsequent one-to-ones to also kind of boost their confidence up again.
Yeah.
And because once you lose, there's always a speed in which people work.
Yes.
And when you kill that, when you do that, you lower the speed. So if for CEOs who don't believe in this human kind of way of leading, you eventually are going to affect the numbers.
Yes.
Because they're gonna come, they're gonna work. You know, they're not stupid. They're not gonna blatantly not work, but that fire will be dimmed.
It will affect the numbers. Thank you. Alastair, an example of either poor accountability or unchecked egos. What does it look like in real life?
I'll take the if we're looking at the risk factor of leadership.
Yeah.
If we look at probably egos, where I've seen most impact personally in this industry is where it is a founder-led business where perhaps the individual hasn't created things like values, a team around him or her to create a team where they can have an open, honest conversation with the owner around areas where perhaps it is getting a little bit out of hand with regards to the ego. Those, I think, found companies should be applauded. But I think where I've seen it damage more is when, as I said, it's solely that individual who finds it very difficult to step away from his or her views and does not consider other people's opinions.
Yes.
I think as well, one of the challenges is when you work in potentially an owner-managed business, people are afraid to give feedback to the owner because they're worried that it's going to be taken personally. So unlike in a much larger company where you have more of a hierarchy and you have more colleagues to be able to, bounce ideas off, if you're working in a smaller business, it's always harder.
Unless you create, unless you create the environment where you allow and want the feedback. I agree that if you don't, it creates fear. Yeah.
Yes. But what if the person in charge or that senior leadership that you have in place is not necessarily open for feedback? So Rosi gave that example, right, where she addressed like, hey, I'm going to give you some feedback about this meeting that we just had. It was a little bit intimidating, scary for the people that were in the meeting. And then he goes to the audience with a complaint, and then I said, no, it's all fine, right? So it's not taking accountability and taking that minute to actually really take that feedback, take a minute, and then change the behavior. What do we do there, right? So
I think I heard the question. As in people were fearful of giving the feedback and how it would be interpreted, do you say?
the fearful of giving the feedback because the person in charge is not actually open for the feedback, right? Because in Rosi's example, he went to the subordinates. They were like, no, it's all fine, great, right?
Well, I think you could, as an example, create an employee survey where it's anonymous and ask simple questions around how do they feel, what's working, what's not working.
Yes.
That would make it anonymous and would, I guess, protect the individuals for being honest.
So you're saying survey could be a solution here, right? To ask for anonymous feedback in general about the culture of the organization.
Yeah.
Right. So anybody else with a suggestion? What do we do? What can we do?
As for me, for example, we have very good thing in our company to control all this ego or to control all these problems with what could be with toxic community or toxic impact on coworkers. We have some kind of HRs, we call it like people partners, who always talk with departments. Is everything good? Is your leader, it's okay in communication? Is it toxic? It's not toxic? Is it supportive, not supportive? And control like all feelings of the coworkers on workplace. Of course, it's very necessary thing because we create this department like 3 or 4 years ago, and my first thing was, okay, what these guys will do, because I don't understand this importance. But when I became a director, yes, I understand that how it's important to have this feedback through other person to understand what people feeling, what they need to have, or maybe you don't see some problems or some your mistakes, because sometimes, and I think that everyone will agree with me, because sometimes your employees don't give you fair feedback, because sometimes it's about fear, sometimes they try to avoid some topics, etc. So it's sometimes it's better to have this feedback from another person, and it's important to take this temperature of the department, what people need just now. Because, for example, yes, for us, we have a lot of our employees in Ukraine, for example, and it's a lot of things that our people face too, and we understand how important to give something more, not even salary for people, some team building, some more rest, for example, and something else. So as for me, like a good suggestion for everyone to have someone who can talk with people, who can ask what happened in your life, what happened in your work, what I need to, and give this people for directors, managers, C-levels, etc. So my suggestion is like to have people who will contact with your employees to ask what they're feeling. In some companies, I know it's a good way to have a psychologist who will talk with people for leading all this process as well. So as for me, it's looking like this.
Yeah, so basically to check the temperature on the floor, right? To understand what is going on. So, but as a leader yourself, right, and managing these people, how do you check yourself and have that self-awareness when you know that you may have crossed the line? So how can you hold yourself as a leader accountable to make sure that one, you don't cross the line, and two, if you do, how to repair that damage?
I think one of the challenges is that feedback can often be very emotive. Someone gives you feedback and straight away you want to be like, no, I didn't say that. No, that's actually not true. And what we need to do as leaders is to take a step back, to look and reflect. I think the main thing is to try and be composed wherever possible, but also to treat people fairly. You know, you want to treat people in the same way that they would treat you. And I think if I look back on my career, I'm sure everybody here would echo the same. We can all think of managers and leaders that have been great, but also managers that have been really bad. And I think the lessons that you learn from the bad leadership actually makes all of us stronger, because I know that I will not want to be how they were to me.
Yeah. Okay. You, Rosi?
Something I had adopted. I had read a book called Radical Candor. I can't remember the author's name, but she suggested something in the book, and I used it, and I used it for the past year and a half. And it's a question. So we used to have performance reviews every 3 months, and it was a really good one-to-one conversation. And at some point during the review, I would ask the question to my direct report: is there anything I should start or stop doing to help working with me better? And the key is to sit in silence, because you want to kind of jump at it, but you let them think about it. And the first couple of times, they were like, "Oh, no, you're fine, you're good." I'm like, no, I'm creating a space here, and I want you to think about it. Is there anything I should start or stop doing? And I opened up conversations, and at some point they go, actually, when you told me that, or when that happened, I would, and also how you deal with that when they do open up, how you deal with that. So I was really, really careful that when they did express what something I needed to change, I took it in. I said, okay, I get you, fine. I'll be more careful next time. Or maybe some of the times there was more context that they needed as to why I reacted in that way, or why I did something or didn't do something. So the important thing is to go out of the meeting where there is nothing festering, as much as possible. And it takes trust. It takes you demonstrating trust and demonstrating authenticity as well, because they can tell if you're just going to ask that and then use it against them after, which is something I never did. So I think that little humble question, and a lot of them told me that they were using it with their direct reports then, so that they can get. So we started a really good loop and cycle where we're constantly checking ourselves and being self-aware to become aware of our flaws and our things that we need to improve upon.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned something very important, right? Not to react when that feedback comes in is negative, but to reflect and then to respond, right? So as leaders, Alastair, especially in this fast and dynamic industry, we often look at people with a great vision and a great strategy, but to what extent do we also need to look at those other items that are important, such as humility, empathy, besides being strong at vision, strategy, and having this in-depth knowledge of the industry? Alastair?
I think being kind is probably the strongest leadership quality that I think is important in business. Yes, okay, we need to be resilient and strong, but I think kindness goes such a long way. And I think that if employees feel that they can trust their leader, they will always work much harder. And that's something that I try and echo in my business, but also in businesses where I've worked for other people. I think, taking the time to get to know the people that work with you is really, really important.
Yeah. And how do you take that into account when you hire or bring this person in, right? How do you measure this?
That's a very good question.
Right? Because again, right? Because we hear great with in-depth knowledge, great strategy, great vision, but that part, what do we do?
I think it's probably important that that you get to know your team on a personal level. I think when you manage and work in a remote business, it's always harder, and I think that it's more difficult to be able to build those kind of clear relationships.
Yes.
But I think wherever possible, it's important to meet your team, but also to get to know them.
I also think that you mentioned be kind, but people also often confuse niceness with kindness. And one of the things I really emphasize on is candor. So tough conversations are really not comfortable. It's just tough, right? And the more we are open to that, and the more that I take negative feedback or tough conversations my way, in a good way, the same way I encourage my team to be candid. And also if something isn't going right or if they're not performing, be honest and be kind enough to tell them. They don't always take it well, but at least they know that you were authentic. You said it as it is. You could be respectful. You can but they know where they are, and they know where they need to they know where they need to change and improve upon. I often see that, beautiful performance reviews, everything is fine and dandy, and then they want to fire them a month later, and then they're fired, and that sends a really bad ripple effect across the organization because they didn't know. They just didn't know what happened, and it happens a lot in this industry. And we really need to work on that because it even if that person leaves and you're like, okay, he's gone or she's gone, the ripple effect that remains of somebody that has been let go without any reason. So there's no restructure, there's no redundancy. It's because there was things that you could have told them that they weren't doing right and you didn't. And then at one point, so I had tried to stop all that, and there had to be the conversations, there had to be the process being done, because it's so hard to bring the culture back.
Yeah.
When a lot of those things happen.
Yeah.
So candor, be kind, and say it as it is. Say it respectfully, but say it as it is.
Please. Yeah. So because that candor, of course, is the basis of trust. So how do we bring back trust after we have seen there has been an erosion of the culture? How do we bring back trust in the organization?
I think it's day by day. You take it day by day. It's not something you can fix by adding a benefit or a barbecue. It's a really it's a slow but steady process. Meeting people, really being honest of why the culture digressed, and getting them on board to help them bring it back again. In this industry, it's really hard because usually the next dig to the culture is right around the corner. But you build that trust, you build that transparency, and that candor, and you literally try your best every day.
Yes. Okay. So as leaders, again, we're talking about those different skill sets that we have. What can we do to improve those skill sets within the organization? So what can we do to support leaders to cultivate this healthy culture, starting with themselves, because leadership starts at the top, as we mentioned. What can leaders do, and how can they be best supported to maintain a healthy culture?
Forgive me, I'm struggling to hear. The question was, how do you create and improve
Yes.
leaders?
So what can leaders do themselves to maintain a healthy culture? So what can we give leaders as a support system for?
Feedback, I think, is probably the most important. Aspects are listening clearly and taking it on board. There are clearly lots and lots of training programs that are there to improve leaders across the skill set of leadership. But yeah, I think feedback and creating an open policies and having the values that create the culture should hopefully hold everybody true within the company.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if there were any questions from the audience, because I did see that Sliders was open, but I haven't. Okay.
I can continue answering your question. It's the and the one of the main problems is that there are leaders that don't know that their ego is unchecked. And they may never. So I think what we can do as leaders that are not that are self-aware is to continue to try to hold them accountable, is to continue to challenge their ego privately as much as, because if you do it publicly, it just makes it worse. But really be an example and continue the mission, as it were, because sometimes it is a bit of a mission to make them aware, because I do believe, even though they don't admit it, there will be a moment where they'll go, maybe I was a little bit off there. I have that hope in my so I think what we need to do is just carry on and be the ones to hold these people accountable, pull them aside, say, that was not on, and also lead by example. So, take your one-to-ones seriously, empower your people. Don't power over them, but power with them, or give power to them, and just be the best example you can be.
Okay, well, we have a question. If you had to choose what trait every senior leader should be measured on, would it be humility, empathy, or accountability? So which trait would it be? Humility, empathy, or accountability?
For me, it would be empathy.
For you, it would be
empathy.
Empathy?
Yeah.
And why did you pick empathy, Cordelia? Why empathy above the others?
I just think it's so closely linked to being kind, and I think that that's the best way to build trust. But to be honest, it's a very good list. We should really have all of them.
Yes, you should have all of them, but your preference is empathy. Let's do the next one. What single leadership behavior do you think signals trouble first? Denial, favoritism, or silence?
I think it's denial.
Yeah.
Hands down, denial.
Okay.
If you don't see it, if you don't want to see it, you'll never change.
So now the last one, I think this is an important one. Can a company truly fix culture without changing the people at the top?
I'd like to think so.
Yeah.
I'd like to
think so, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So you're saying that the people that created the erosion can also fix it.
The thing is, when there is a leader that has an ego problem, if it's just him or her, then there is a chance. Yeah. If they start bringing in people like them, and they become the majority of the C-suite, for example, then we have a problem. And then it's not fixable.
Thank you. Our time is up. Thank you for your answers and input. And we're getting ready for the next session. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Cindy and her amazing panel for such an insightful session. Please, if you could remain on the stage for a photo, that would be fantastic.
Think so? Excellent.